Gus, is there such thing as a good guy discount and also an injury surcharge when it comes to charges?
Oh, too hard a question to answer, mate. What do you want me to do, end up in court? Crikey. I mean, they should have to explain themselves in a lot of the decisions they make, but they can't. A lot of the things that we see in the game, like that hip drop thing, it's just a result of the tackling techniques that our players have been forced to use over a number of years to accommodate the referees and the rule interpretations and the speed of the play of the ball. As I've said, I could go over the last 40 years and explain it all to you, but we are making the game more and more difficult to play. The players are getting bigger and stronger. And then we get decisions like this. I mean, this was one of the most ridiculous things I've ever heard. Not just the charge and the suspension, but the explanation for it. That it was an unnecessary risk for him to sprint out of the line as way he did. Let me go into a game and show you how many players sprint out of the line. Let's go back to the Origin series and watch the first 10 minutes and watch blokes sprinting out of the line of each other. It's part of our game. To say that it was an unnecessary risk, it was the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my life. And it only shores up my opinion that sometimes there are incidents on the field where the judiciary is out to make a statement, where the game is out to make a statement through its judiciary punishment.
I think where one of the real challenges is we get the confusion is that when you listen to the MRC analyse an incident, there's so much detail in there, separation, elbows, and then for a referee to adjudicate that on the field, whether it's the bunker or the on-field referee, they can't go into that level of detail. So you get one thing and then you get another thing.
And everything's refereed differently off the field than it is on the field, including the bunker, right, including the match review committee, and then including the judiciary. They're all different, and they all have different powers, and they all have different motivations in what they're trying to do.
So is the system flawed, or are the people that are making the decisions making the wrong decisions?
The system is flawed.
So how do you
the system is flawed, and the people are flawed. I mean, all this stuff you say, you've got to look at so many different things. It shouldn't be like that. It's the same as when we're looking at tries and balls that are up in the air and bobbling around. We look at too much detail. It's all about intent. It's all about unnecessary risk, or it's all about carelessness or recklessness. And in these things, a lot of the players, the difficulty of playing this game now because of the rules and the interpretation and the obsession of the referee and the bunker and the judiciary is a minefield. I would hate to be playing in this era. I would really hate to be playing in this era. I would hate to be coaching in this era. I don't know how they put up with it.
Well, it's more
I don't know how, because when you go out every weekend, you are just in their hands and you don't know what's going to happen.
Priority should be try and get the message, I guess, the same for the fans. I mean, the fans must get confused by the
100%. They've got no idea what's happening.
No,
let alone with judiciaries and that, but in the game itself, the technicalities, the six agains and the penalties. And what was that for, Marge? I don't know, Jack. I don't know. You just watch the game. You want a cup of tea? No, I'll go and get a cup of tea. We're having another bunker up here. You can get 2 cups of tea while you're doing that. I mean, the whole thing is too difficult.
Well, and you talk about the amount of detail that should or shouldn't be gone into. We had the unusual scenario today where Luke Patton, who's the manager of the match review committee, came out with a statement regarding the Asofa-Solomona incident against Wade Egan.
Were you any wiser after that?
Well, there was a lot of words. There was a number of things. So they're talking about not charging Asofa-Solomona with anything. That's what we've got to keep in mind here. There was a number of things for the MRC to consider. It was a forceful tackle which unfortunately resulted in Egan's head going into the ground. There might be possibly minor contact at the end of the tackle, but that was minor contact.
Hang on, if you're talking about unnecessary risk, surely that is unnecessary risk. What was he trying to do here other than hurt him?
It flies in the face of all the other decisions they've made at different times.
This is the problem.
It seems that they take discretion when it suits them. They don't take discretion, or they don't. There isn't that level of understanding in the Finucane thing at all to recognise that it's an error.
That's
it's a mistake.
Unnecessary contact. He didn't need to do that.
No, Jared Weir-Hargraves, he actually got fined for his incident with young Fulton, Zach Fulton on Thursday.
That's far worse than anything Finucane did.
Yeah, well,
there's been a couple of
fine. How is
you played a little bit, didn't you? How many did you play? 600 and something games. You tell me which was worse, Finucane or
getting your head slammed on the ground. Yeah. That's a good chance of getting knocked out there.
Yeah. He had some busted teeth, Wade Egan.
If you take an injury into account, if a guy got shattered teeth, then surely.
And they even had an out. They had an out and charge him with a grade 1, which is a fine, which would have been a cop out anyway, and they still didn't take it. It wasn't a charge at all.
But I saw Luke Patton. We saw the words, but if you see him deliver that with his face and voice, you're like your head spinning. You're going, how are we ever going to understand how the game's officiated when...
But this is a guy who's played the game at a very high level. So, we want guys with the football IQ, and then they're the ones in there, and then we sit here and say they're getting it wrong.
So they've got all these things here, they're reading of a
Everything
textbook.
changes when you come to the NRL, because in every other grade, in every other lower grade, and every junior league park, tries are tries that are not tries in the NRL. The incidents of charge that are not charged. The difference between the professional game now and the park football, this is over-officiated, over-refereed, over-analysed, over-scrutinised to hell. It's
So, Lockie,
ridiculous.
what you're saying, Lockie, is you might have the former players in there, but you've got them reading off a textbook and being told almost how to interpret it?
Yeah, I just think
Rather than
we
using
need to
their
get the terminology with the on-field decisions very similar to what they're doing when they're reviewing this, right? Because the decisions that have been handed down by the match review committee are going into a lot more detail than what the people, on the ground are doing. So we're getting this mixed messages. So I think we need to streamline that, and I think you'll get a lot more...
Did they make an explanation for the no charge on the potential eye gouge? Was there an explanation of that as compared to what happened the previous week?
So, Gus, do you have an explanation for it? This is the Josh King incident. Obviously, you've got Corey Waddell on the sideline for 5 weeks.
Well, forget that Corey Waddell's, it could be any player, but what is the difference between these and what we saw the previous week?
0 in 5 weeks.
Not even a charge.
Not even a charge. Unpunished.
Not even a please explain.
Perhaps.
And you say that they take injury in account. They didn't even bring Tino down to the judiciary. So Waddell couldn't face his accuser. Fanino wasn't injured.
Perhaps they knew that the Bulldogs were going to go after Tino and took that into account. It was well publicised during the week that they weren't happy with him. But, yeah, it leaves you dumbfounded, some of these decisions. They probably argue here that he tried to actually put his finger in compared to what was happening in the other tackle. But there's not a 0 to 5 week difference in the two tackles, that's for sure.
All I can picture is...
We've lost Gus.
I can picture the little...
He's gone.
You have the little emoji with the spinny eyes?
Stick your finger in your eye and see if you can do what he just did. Stick your own finger in your own eye and then see if you can.
Yeah.
Takes a while for you. Anyway.